Whew, okay. Howdy, everybody. This is different, right? Yeah, this is different. So, I apologize for any of the Patreons watching who might be bothered, but you guys are the guinea pigs. This is the first time I am hosting a stream from my new place here in Nashville, Tennessee. But I'm drinking a Wisconsin soda. This is a Sprecher Cherry Cola made with real Door County cherry juice. Yeah, so I'm gonna be able to see the chat. So yeah, this is very much a test run. This Patreon stream, I have to turn to look at the chat, so I'll be checking it periodically, of course, and the camera's on a bookcase right now that's not actually holding anything, so we'll see. That's probably going to change eventually, but for right now that was the best place to put the webcam. Everything looks naked back here. You can see my Hulk Hogan Ultimate Warrior garbage can down there, which is oddly fitting for those two guys to be on a garbage can. And some, like, I think maybe you can see the rock band Detrius down there that I haven't found a place for, but if you can see the rest of the room, it's just boxes, basically. Which is why I'm playing some Kunio games, because my Switch is one of the things that's hooked up already. I'm in the process of getting everything hooked up, but I'm waiting on a G-SCART Switch, which I'm really excited about, because I'll be able to have all my systems hooked up at the same time, pretty much, which is just fantastic. I'm so excited for that. So yeah, but right now I only have a couple systems hooked up, and I thought Kunio would be a good way to do this. So one of the things that I lost in my new setup, which is totally worth it for the, you know, greater good of the entire setup, is that my TV and my computer used to be right next to each other. That's not the case. Now my TV and my game setup is over here. My computer's back here. So I actually had to order like a 15-foot long USB cable for my capture card. The capture card's over there by the TV, and I'm over here by the computer. So yeah, that's where we're at right now. So I checked the levels. I think everything's good. The game should not be drowning me out, and you should be able to hear me just fine. And we're gonna go ahead and play some games. So this is the import Kunio-kun The World Classics Collection. So this is basically I think it's all of the NES Kunio Nekketsu games. Sorry, all of the Famicom Kunio Nekketsu games. And all of the NES ones, with one exception. And then the 3 Double Dragon games, just like as a bonus. So, conspicuous by its absence is NES World Cup. And the reason that NES World Cup is not included here is because that was published by Nintendo themselves in the US, but the Japanese version is right here. So, I think. Or, sorry, that's NES World Cup. Nekketsu Koko Dodgeball Boo Soccer Hen. This is the sequel to NES World Cup, which never came out, or Nintendo World Cup, I should say, which never came out in the United States. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna... So the quality up versus original, you hit the X button to toggle that. All that means is that the sprite flicker is reduced. So, The problem is that none of the... So all this instructions and everything are in English, and that's really cool, but the problem with some of these games is that they're kind of not really super playable in Japanese. Like, you could probably... This is River City Ransom. Like, you could probably navigate your way through that if you're familiar with the game in English, but sometimes they tell you the location of certain bosses. Like, even as a kid, I remember having a problem because I think it's Blade. I just replayed this game, so I should remember. But I think it's Blade is at the park. So you fight a bunch of... Like, you progress sort of linearly through the game, and then you fight a dude who tells you, oh, you know, Blade is waiting for you in the park. And you have to backtrack to a park at the beginning of the game. And if you don't, you can't move forward because you have to defeat all of the zombies, which is like the lead gang. It's like Slick's gang. You have to defeat all of them to get into River City High. And if you couldn't read the Japanese, you wouldn't know that. Which is why this game here, Downtown Special Kunio-kun no Jidaigeki Dayo Zenin Shugo, which is something to the effect of Downtown Special Kunio, like, period era play all member gathering or something weird like that. But it's basically like a feudal Japan version of River City Ransom, but it's also sort of done in the style of, like, they're putting on a play, like Kunio and his friends are putting on a play about feudal Japan. But the language barrier is really, like, playing it in Japanese, you'd be hard pressed to make much, if any, progress. So, let's see here. Let's go through these one at a time and just sort of talk about what they are. So this is Nekketsu Koha Kunio-kun, roughly translated hot-blooded punk Kunio, and this is Renegade. Nekketsu Koko Dodgeball Boo is Nekketsu hot-blooded high school dodgeball club. That's Super Dodgeball. Downtown Nekketsu Monogatari is Downtown Hot-Blooded Story, and that is River City Ransom. Nekketsu Koko Dodgeball Boo Soccer Hen is Hot-Blooded High School Dodgeball Club Soccer Edition, which is weird. And that's NES World Cup, or Nintendo World Cup. Which was bundled with another Technos game that's not in this collection, called Super Spike V-Ball, when I think it's just called the Sports Edition NES was released in the United States. It came with a 4-score or a satellite, I don't remember. I think it was actually a satellite, which was not the optimal. That is not the 4-player adapter you want for your NES. You want a 4-score because it plugs in. Doesn't have any weird infrared nonsense going on. This and Super Spike V-Ball were bundled in a single cart, like a Mario Duck Hunt style cart. I have it, but I don't. It's in a box over here, otherwise I'd show it to you. But they were put together, and you know, that was how they sort of sold the 4-player adapter, as these two sports games that are 4 players: Super Spike V-Ball and Nintendo World Cup. So they're like co-productions of Technos and Nintendo. But that's cool. Even though I have both of those games individually, I also have the dual cart just because I think it's cool, and it's one of the weirder dual carts. Like, everybody has Mario and Duck Hunt, right? But the stuff that's a little more offbeat is like the Mario Duck Hunt World Class Track Meet triple cart, and the Super Spike V-Ball Nintendo World Cup, which also Frank Cifaldi told us when we used to do the On the Stick podcast. Frank Cifaldi told us that the last ROM dumped to the internet for the licensed NES library was that dual cart, and Frank is the one who dumped it. So. Fun fact. Even though it was redundant at that time, because both the other games were already dumped, obviously. Downtown Nekketsu Koshinkyoku Soreyuki Dai Undokai. Boy, that's like Downtown Hot-Blooded athletic meet or something. I don't remember what exactly it translates to. Let's see if it tells it'll tell us the story. So, oh no, there are more versions. High quality version changes. Displays all team scores during winner announcement. Change base value reference for character throw power. Allows match selection in 1P mode. No points for equipping weapons. Okay, so there actually are changes. Most of the high quality versions I thought just fixed like the flicker, but that's not true apparently. That's cool. This is the game that became Crash and the Boys, I believe. Or no, sorry, this is the one that came first. That's the original Crash and the Boys. And then the sequel was the one that we actually got as Crash and the Boys Street Challenge. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit. This is River City Ransom sequel. That's a period Japan thing. And again, it's really cool that this is all translated. So if you... And I have a physical copy of this, just because I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. But this is actually available for download. So if you have a Switch or PS4 and you have a Japanese account, you can download it from there. Yeah, so there's a bunch of changes to the high quality. But during the Edo period, Bunzo used to be the strongest street fighter. However, ever since the Terrazzo family began engaging in evil deeds, he lost his power and even found himself bedridden with disease. A vagabond, Kunimasa, entered the scene, come to repay for the good turn he owed to Bunzo for earlier kindness. So, yeah, but it's basically it's a medieval version of River City Ransom. Ike nekketsu hakibu subite koronde dairanto. So that's Go Hot-Blooded Hockey Club. I don't remember what the subtitle is. Let's take a look here. Right, so this reduces lag and flickering bug fixes, so there's not much change. So a lot of the games, again, the change here is that there's less flicker or less slowdown. That's it. This game almost got a US release as Crash and the Boys Ice Challenge. But that never actually happened. So actually, no, I was wrong. This game is Crash and the Boys. Then this was going to be Crash and the Boys Ice Challenge. Bikuri Nekketsu Shinkiroku Harukanaru Kin Metal. Again, this is another one of those, it's like hot-blooded track meet or hot-blooded athletic meet. Something gold medal. Keen Metal, I think, is gold medal, if I'm not mistaken. So, oh no, I was right the first time. If you look at the screenshots, you can see this is Crash and the Boys. The first one was not released in the US. The second one is Crash and the Boys Street Challenge, even though it came out before after Ice Challenge or Hockey Club. This was the one that was released first in the US, and then they were going to release the hockey game, which they didn't. And this one I actually can't even look at what the improved... Oh, there is no improved version, that's why. There's no quality up thing there. There's nothing to change. Nekketsu Kakuto Densetsu, which is a hot-blooded fighting tournament legend or something like that. This game is actually really dope. I like this game a lot, and it's I have the original card of a lot of these, not most, but a lot of these I have the original card. But it's a 4-player fighting game, and it's kind of surprising. I feel like this maybe if Technos had continued publishing games for the NES. See, this is late. This is almost the end of '92, so the NES was really sort of in its last throes by the time this game came out. But it's sort of It's almost like a proto Smash Brother. A lot of people say that about a lot of weird offbeat fighting games that came out earlier. The NES doesn't have a lot of fighting games. This one's actually super fun. Again, the special version just reduces the lag. Kunio no Nekketsu Soccer League is Kunio's hot-blooded soccer league. It's the sequel to Nintendo World Cup, and it basically just improves on that in the way that you would expect a sequel to. And then the final Kunio release on the NES is Nekketsu Street Basket Ganbare Dunk Heroes, which if you've been paying attention to my stuff for a while, I did an episode during the Nintendo Entertainment Celebration where Roger took a look at this game. I love this game. It's one of my favorite basketball games, if not my favorite basketball game of all time. Super late, obviously didn't come to the US because it was released in 1993. You know, but this is a really great game. And then we have the US releases. So you've got Renegade, which, you know, again, it's basically just the sprites are swapped from hot-blooded punk Kunio to become Renegade. But that cover art is so great. That guy just died. He died like a year ago today, I want to say, or 2 years ago. Not today, this week. A year ago this week, or 2 years ago this week, the cover artist died. But that cover art, you can't make it bigger, but it just looks so great. I love the cover art here. Super Dodgeball, River City Ransom, we all know that. Crashing the Boys Street Challenge, you know, again, one that was supposed to be the start. Like, Technos was finally kind of taking ownership themselves. Like, if you look at these, so they had to wipe out the other company's names, but at the top you can see the old Taito logo from when Taito published NES games, but the word Taito is taken out of it at the top there, but that was a Taito published game in the US. This was, I believe, the first game that Sony ImageSoft published in the United States, or anywhere probably as a video game. And there used to be a banner at the top of that box art that said CSG ImageSoft. But that's obviously been wiped. River City Ransom was actually published by Technos themselves, but it was with Crash and the Boys that they finally kind of took ownership, and Kunio was going to be Crash Kuni, and they were going to start doing the line, but then the only one they ever did was Crash and the Boys. So, and then we've got Double Dragon 2, and Double Dragon 3, which is weird that it's the NES versions and not the Japanese versions, because this is a Japanese game. Like, I wonder if I back out and change the language to Japanese, if it'll give me the Japanese box arts for the Double Dragon games or not. I don't know. I haven't tried that. So anyways, going through all this, Perfidious Leaf says, how's the move going, Joe? It's going. I mean, the move part is done, right? Like, we have moved. All of our stuff is in this house, but getting everything organized it's taken a minute, but I'm gonna have some time. Starting next week, I'm gonna have some time to be able to do stuff. And then Perfidious Leaf also says, the Kunio games are quite good from what I've played. It's a pity that Technos was never able to properly franchise in the West. I agree. So we're gonna let's do some ice challenge. So we don't get translations at all. But we get Kunio smacking Ricky with a dodgeball, so... At least I think that was Ricky. Oh, no, that's not Ricky. I think there's a dog hanging out on the title screen, like, for whatever reason. Oops. Nope. Nope. Didn't want to do that. So yeah, this game does support up to 4 players. I don't have a password. I'm just gonna go with the default lineup here. He shoots, he scores. So obviously no penalties here. You can slash. You can slash, you can do all that. I mean, you can do whatever you want, basically. Just no penalties. I feel like I should know all the Kunio characters' names, but because they recur in a lot of these games, but Kunio and Ricky are the only ones that I really know. Kunio finally gets a goal. Finally. I'm 5-0 in the 4-0 in the first period. Yes, you can just beat up the goalie. No goalie interference. No Ewok, come here. No goalie interference. No hooking penalties. No slashing penalties. No penalties of any kind, actually, as it turns out. Not a really great passing mechanic, though. Oh, there is a penalty. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. Vidius Leaf says, I figure I should probably ask a few questions for the stream. Are there any other ports you wish you'd covered on SNDG, for example, Ninja Gaiden Mobile, Street Fighter Alpha for the PC? Well, I mean, I tried to cover those. You know. No, not really, because there's a lot of... Also, I feel like you've asked that question before, but, you know, the thing is that you know, when I was covering certain games or whatnot, sometimes it's just based on my workload. Like, it's easier to cover 2 games than it is to cover 6, right? So, ooh, off the crossbar. My dog's being weird. Ewok, come here. Hey. It's kind of hard when they shoot from off screen because your goalie doesn't do anything on his own. Get in there. Oh. I don't... That's not great AI. Like, a hockey player would never shoot from behind the net. That doesn't make any sense. Perfidious Leaf says, what are your earliest gaming memories? I vaguely recall playing Space Invaders on a friend's Atari 2600. That's probably my earliest that I could think of. I mean, that was before I was in school at all. I mean, I was probably 4 or 5. And of course, when you have no idea, like, how old, you know what I mean? Like, I had no sense that the 2600, like, that game was, you know, even by the time I was 4 or 5 years old, that game was, you know, the better part of a decade old. Like, I didn't know that. So I just thought it was really cool. Like, I was really impressed by Space Invaders. I mean, I was just impressed by the idea that, you know, I do something on this joystick and something happens on the screen, you know, because when you're that age, that's impressive enough. Top shelf. You know, that's impressive enough when you're that age. That you do something that I would do this, and then the characters on the screen would respond in some way. That wasn't impressive, but that's impressive enough that happens. Ewok, come here. Come here. Here's my dog. One of them. One of my dogs. Okay, let's not bump the mic though, Ewok. Hi. The other dog does not fit on my lap. If you've watched enough of our Extra Life streams, you've seen both my dogs, though. Okay, hey, lay down, you. Lay down, lay down. So yeah, I'm really glad that I have this mic stand, because I realized, I was like, I don't know where I'm going to put the mic, where I'll be heard. Whoa. Okay. I had to pause here to adjust this microphone. There's usually, my video mic is usually on this. And the video mic is a lot lighter than the Blue Snowball, so I don't have to worry about it tipping over. But I'm going to shorten that up so that Blue Snowball will fall over. Alright, what was I doing? Oh, nope. Well, actually, you know what? Now let's finish this game. I say I'm going to change games, but I'll finish this one first. But yeah, 2600 Space Invaders is my earliest gaming memory. It's on a one-man Zamboni. He just sweeps the ice. Perfidious Leaf says, that's an interesting phenomenon. I can totally play the NES without any issue, but I'm not too keen on the 2600. I wonder if younger generations feel the same about the stuff we played. I don't think so. I'm not super keen on the 2600 at this point either. It depends on the game. Right? I mean, that's the big thing. It depends on the game. I think that Space Invaders on the 2600 is... Oh, come on. I think Space Invaders on the 2600 is still sort of eminently playable, but... There we go. You know, but there's a lot of 2600 games that are less so. There we go. You know, I think that 2600 games are... It just really depends on the game. And also the length of gameplay is not the same. I think with younger people and NES games, they're a lot harder than modern games, and they're a lot harder to understand, and you kind of have to read the manual in some cases. Like if you watch... you know, people make videos of younger kids, you know, teenagers today or whatever, playing NES games, and they don't really grok what's going on because there's no tutorial and they don't give them the manual. You know, when we rented or bought games as kids, we had a manual. So, like, I saw a thing where, it was probably one of those React channel videos or whatever, but it was like, these kids are playing, Mega Man, and like one of them doesn't realize they can shoot because they're never told they can shoot, and they don't have the same instinct that you or I would have to just try every button on the controller, especially since there's only 4 buttons on an NES controller, including start and select, and see what they all do. Oh, off the crossbar. You know, so if you don't have that instinct, if you don't know that you're to just try everything and see what happens, you know, you wouldn't have any idea. But I think that the NES, I think the reason that the NES is so popular, and I think a part of the reason why it was, oh God, come on. I think part of the reason why it was successful in bringing games back from the crash, at least in North America, is because, you know, the depth of experiences you could have, and I'm not even just talking about graphics, but I'm just talking about, like, the size of the games and the game worlds and the game stories is such an evolutionary leap from the 2600 to the NES. I mean, something like this with multiple hockey teams and a story about the different high schools, and then I think you get, if I remember correctly, as you play the different teams, you get different items from them and stuff, kind of like in the basketball game. That just was not possible on the 2600. I mean, the closest approximation they have to an RPG on the 2600 is Adventure. The AI is really dumb in this game. An adventure... I mean, compare adventure to Dragon Warrior. Which is sort of... maybe not the first, but... you know, one of the first RPGs on the NES and sort of the template for the ones that came after. Well, now we're on the power play. I like that I can kick the goalie with my skate. That's pretty amazing. And that's the game. Nekketsu team wins 11-4. So, you know, I think that's the big, you know, that's the big difference, is the breadth of experiences you could have on the NES was just so different, and that's why these games persist until today, and 2600 games less so. 2600 games are almost universally score chases. Even something like Pitfall, which has exploratory elements, the whole thing is how big of a score can you have, you know, how much treasure can you collect. And NES games had story arcs and endings, and you know, when you look at the history of gaming, you have these leaps of a 2600, you know, second generation to third generation is this massive leap. The ColecoVision, the Intellivision, the Atari 2600 represent something so different than so I'm going to save. Oop. And then we're going to play a different game. You have, between that third generation, oops, that second generation and third generation of consoles, you have such a huge leap. And then between you know, third to fourth, you've got just prettier graphics, really, in a lot of ways. But fourth to fifth, when you go from, that's the sort of 2D to 3D, you know, the Genesis, Super NES to the PlayStation and N64, Saturn. That's a huge evolutionary leap. And I think you can argue even the fourth, or sorry, the fifth to the sixth, the PS2 and GameCube era, you have another surprisingly evolutionary leap, just in terms of like the raw number crunching and the size the games could be. And since then, I don't really feel like we've had another evolutionary leap, but I think the most important one is that second to third generation. That's got to be the biggest evolutionary leap that games had seen and maybe have seen ever. And so I think that a lot of people still find NES games playable, but stuff from before that they find kind of tough to settle down with. That's just my opinion, though. Perfidious Leaf says, favorite Yuzo Koshiro tune? Never Return Alive. So let's see here. Don't get a lot of people watching tonight, but that's okay. This will be archived for all the Patreons, for, you know, exclusively for Patreon folks for a while. And you can leave comments here on the Patreon post. So, how did I sort? Oh, I changed the sort. Yeah, sort by release date. Yeah, see, Crash and the Boys came out after both of these came out. And you can go by device, so you go NES versus. Let's check this one out. Oops. This also has online play. I have no idea if the servers are any good or what you can expect. But let's check out the fighting game, because this is a fun one. Can I change the... That's a bummer. You can change the backgrounds, but you have to... Well, I'll show you. It's so weird that they make you do this, but you have to go all the way out to the main menu. And then go to settings. And then you go to edit background. It's so weird. And then you pick the game that you want to edit the background for. This is so unintuitive. I don't get why this is the case, but we can change. You can do black, you can do gradated, but I like the different... Some people hate these different backgrounds, but I actually like them. Let's go with Kunio. Kicking. And it's the same for all these. And I do like that you can just hit X to make them all black and A to make them all the default ones. It's still weird that I have to like back out to do this though. If we change it to Japanese, it changes the box arts on the main screen. That I know. And see, it does keep them the American versions of the Double Dragon games. That's so weird. But it changes the box arts if you notice. It changes the title screen completely. See, now we get all the US covers of the games, which I think is cool. It's a nice touch. I appreciate it. Anyways, we'll check out the fighting game for a little while. Perfidious Leaf says, funniest games you've played. Katamari Damacy is definitely one of them. The first time I rolled up a person in my Katamari Damacy, I thought I was going to die laughing. That was one. Full Throttle has some really funny bits. Still love that game. Gotta edit and so the way this game works is you don't actually get Right, so you choose your partner. I choose Kunio, of course. But you play as a character that you create. So when you enter your name, your birthday, and your blood type, it gives you a character based on that. And then there's like a password you can use to recover those characters. It helps to have a guide with this game, but I'm just kind of messing around. And so your fighting style is chosen based on that stuff too. So, like you can see I'm wearing like the lower part of a karate gi. That means that I fight a certain way. Kunio's wearing shorts and a tank top. He fights a different way. So the different throws, the different even punch and kicks, air attacks, all of that stuff is determined by the style that you have, and that's determined by, again, a combination of your birthday, your blood type. See, as the karate guy, I can kneel on this dude and punch him in the balls repeatedly. And then you get giant Muppet mouths when you win. Snarcast Productions, Todd says, "Hey Joe, how's the new place?" I'm just going to call you guys by your names because I know who you are, Todd and Joel. How's the new place? Unless you want to maintain your anonymity, in which case I apologize for just blowing it, but I'll go back to your aliases. So there's a bunch of different maps in this. Maps aren't really maps, but there's a bunch of different stages in this game, and yeah, so you can throw guys. Like this one, the walls are electrified, so if you Irish whip someone into the wall or kick them into it, they get electrified, and then if they touch someone while they're electrified, they electrify that person as well. And then yeah, there are team attacks. Drop the big elbow if I don't want to sit on him and punch him in the nuts repeatedly while he's down. Hoisted on my own petard. And the items you pick up will like give you additional strength or health or whatever. I think in this story mode they might actually give you additional stat boosts and stuff long term. But Joel asked about the funniest games I played, and I listed a couple. But yeah, I don't know. You know what else is hilarious? The Point Blank series from Namco. Those games are a riot. And Todd asked how the new place is, and yeah, it's really coming together, and that's one of the things. Speaking of the Point Blank series, is I'm in the market for a CRT. So that I can play my light gun games again. So yeah, so there's Ricky. Ricky's in this game, of course, as well. So this cannonball move that I'm doing, that's one of the specials. Whoa! That's one of the specials that Karate Guy has. That double kick that ends the kick combo is another one. So yeah, this is the stage with landmines. That's a thing. So you obviously want to bait your opponents into touching the landmines or throw them into the landmines. Yeah, I hope they just run into them like idiots. Yeah, so to do the team-up attacks, you just grab each other and hit both A and B at the same time. Alright, Joel's taking off. He's gonna drop by again if the stream's still going on later. Alright, see ya, Joel. Glad you were able to stop by for a bit. Here's the freezer room. This is, of course, you can imagine what the deal is here. I can do a sort of like Finn Balor-esque coup de grace move. No turnbuckle, but like just jumping and stomping on people. Yeah, so this is a game that, I mean, in some ways it feels ahead of its time. Kunio, a little help over here, man. Come on. Oh, great. I got some pills. Good for health, bad for education, I'm told. Yeah. Even with Kunio getting knocked out, I was able to make a comeback. We can rally. Tony says, "Hi Joe, how's Tennessee?" It's good so far. We've only been here for, I guess today's the 7th day, really. We moved in last Friday, so it's been about a week. I haven't had the chance to explore as much as I might have liked. You know, but it's good. I like it. We've had a fair amount of good food. We're getting settled in. You know, I really like our neighborhood. I really like that space in my home for me to have my game set up. You know, all that stuff. So yeah, it's good. Joel says before I go, I should say I enjoyed the admittedly little time I spent on the stream and appreciated the questions answered. Yeah, of course, man. You know, you don't gotta hang out for the whole hour and a half or 2 hours. Like, you can go whenever you want. You know, don't take that as a slight. I know people have lives, and you can watch the archive later if you want to see the whole thing. Todd says, sorry I was late getting in. Was breaking in some new Steam stuff on my laptop. Can't hardly blame you for that, man. So yeah, again, for folks that weren't here sort of right at the beginning, man, the setup is different. Obviously, you're seeing a different layout. There's going to be art over here eventually. We're sort of prioritizing. We had all this art, we had all these posters, but we didn't have room for a lot of them in DC. Because our place was so small, and now it's like there's so much wall space even in this room. You know, gotcha. You know, there's so much wall space in this room that there's going to be stuff. I've got my Square Painter poster paintings right over here that I got at MagFest this year. My Ms. Pac-Man and my Bill Reiser. And I have a Kunio from him somewhere in one of these boxes. Those have to find a home. I've got some Mondo. I've got a Mondo limited edition Resident Evil poster. I've got a Mondo limited edition Contra poster, which is actually super cool because it's a poster for Contra, which is my favorite game of all time. And it was done for Mondo by my favorite comic book artist of all time. So... like, that is Eric Powell, who did The Goon. That's just... and actually lives in Nashville, I think, or near Nashville. Lives in Tennessee. There's a Goon relaunch, because The Goon's coming back, apparently. There's a relaunch party coming up in the city this month that I'm going to try to go to. That's another thing about Tennessee, about Nashville, that I've really been liking, is there's so much cool stuff that I think is cool to do here. Next week, there's a midnight showing of Blackula that I'm going to, that's right near our house. There is the same theater is doing the recent restorations of Police Story 1 and 2 with Jackie Chan. That theater is showing them as a double feature later in March. I'm going to go to that. There's just, you know, a lot of that type of cool stuff going on that I really like. There's at least two, I think three, excuse me, I think there's three, but there's at least two arcades that I need to check out. I'm not that far from Music Row, which is where like all the recording studios and stuff are, record label offices. And there's an arcade right over there on Music Row that I need to check out. I did not mean to kick my own teammate into the electrified wall. Oh, come on, Kunio, get him. So when I said get him, Kunio, I didn't mean like walk into the electrified wall yourself. It's kind of annoying that I can't just take control of Kunio once I get knocked out, but... Kunio didn't do a great job there. But I guess neither did I, because I got knocked out, so... Pile driver. It's weird that I'm the karate guy, but I also do like flying elbow drops and pile drivers. Right? Like, That doesn't seem right. Whoa. Oof. Either this game suddenly got harder, I just got bad at it, or some combination of the two, I guess. Alright, let's check out another one of these. There's been a lot of Double Dragon 2 action on the channel lately. Tony says, did you finish Hyperlight Drifter? I've been listening to the soundtrack constantly the last couple weeks. So good. The soundtrack is really good, but no, I haven't finished it. Shortly after we did that that stream and I did my part of the gift exchange, that was right around when Resident Evil 2 came out. And I've just been playing a lot of Resident Evil 2. Yeah, let's play some Double Dragon 2. Why not? On the NES. Todd says, ow, that hurt. Yes, yes it did. I believe that was in reference to me getting thrown on the spikes and beat up in the Kunio game we were just playing. People called them the Double Dragons. So I think that it was cool of them to put the Double Dragon games on here. Because the Kunio games really do lead right into the Double Dragon series in a way, but I think it would have been more interesting to see some more offbeat, especially since they're bonus games, right? That's how they were framed. They're bonus games in this collection. It would have been more interesting to see it would have been more interesting to see some more offbeat Technos games. I already mentioned like Super Spike V-Ball. That would have been fun to see. Or the arcade version of Renegade. Or the arcade version of Super Dodgeball. Or, you know what I mean? Like, I think that would have been potentially more interesting. And you might say, well, wait, the arcade version of Super Dodgeball is on the Hamster Arcade Archives thing, I believe, pretty sure. To which I would say, well, yeah, but Like, ooh, excuse me. Double Dragon and Double Dragon 2, I'm pretty sure, at least, are on the Switch Online thing, so... I mean, it's pretty clear that we're okay with doing multiple... And the SNK 40th Anniversary Collection has several games that are also in Arcade Archive, so... you know, I just think that would have been interesting, more interesting to see, you know, some of that stuff instead of, like... It's Double Dragon 1, 2, and 3 on the NES. Like, again, especially when those are available on Switch Online. At least 1 and 2. So if you've never done what I'm doing right now before, if you set it to 2 players, and then you beat up your partner, every time you kill your partner, you get an extra life. So now you see I have 7 lives now that I've... Alright, let's see if I can just knee Burnov off the side of the building. Wrong way. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oof. Wrong way again. Oh well. Tony says gotta go. Have a great night. You too, Tony. And thanks everyone for your support, of course. They're escaping that chopper. You'll never make it. This is one of my... Oh no, it's the next one. Never mind. I was gonna say, this is one of my favorite moments in this game, but not yet. I love the backgrounds in this game. I love... you know, there's a certain aesthetic, the sort of neon city skyline, and I like just the very simplified, like that right there. I just love that. I love the look of that. There's some really, really wonderful cityscapes in 8 and 16-bit games that I just think are really, you know, really fantastic to look at. Yes, I just threw a hand grenade at you. No, no! Oh, hoisted on my own petard once again. I outsmarted myself. The reason this game is so good, or one of the reasons this game is so good, one of the best beat-em-ups on the system, if not the best, which is debatable. Some people like Battletoads for whatever reason. Some people like me, I would say River City Ransom is the best beat-em-up on the system. But one of the reasons this game is so great is that the attacks all, like, they all, almost everything feels like it has weight to it. Like that knee, the punt move when you have someone like grabbed and you do the punt move, that feels like just a combination of the slight delay from when you do the input and the sound effect. Like the combination of those two things makes it feel like it has weight. Grasp. That's the best line of anything in this game. Grasp. The chopper escaped into the neon-filled night. Mission 3. Battle in the chopper. You know, but the weight of those attacks and the very bassy, you know, hit sound effects. Come on. Wow. That could have gone better. The chopper is landing on a mysterious island. Given all the cutscenes that come before that, that one feels just sort of phoned in. Wow. I think I played this game on stream not that long ago, but I don't remember why I would have. How could I possibly have avoided that? The boss of that stage is a conveyor belt. Where does this path lead us? We've got no choice but to go on, though this is the way to certain death. Mission 5, the Forest of Death. Whoops. Whoops. used to be able to do this right away in one shot, but okay. Apparently I just can't pick up that dynamite for some reason. So there is a code to continue, but you need a second controller to do it, and I don't have a second controller hooked up, so. Well, we got about 10 minutes left, I think, before I'm going to call it a night, so. Let's do some Renegade. The original Kunio game, the very first Kunio game. If you've played Super Dodgeball, you're familiar with that tune. And that one. Lost, punk. This game is rough. And I guess it must have been Technos themselves who ported it, because otherwise it wouldn't be on this collection. But wow, this NES version of Renegade, like, I always remember not liking this game. And then I feel like I've heard people say, you know, oh, it's not that bad. It's pretty bad. It's pretty rough around the edges. Can't even pass the first level. You know, this is one of those games. It's very important in the history of gaming because this really is the first. I'm not trying to load the game. What am I doing? You know, it is one of the first brawlers. It's the first belt-scrolling brawler. but it's everything in this game is, you know, better realized in Double Dragon. I mean, one of the worst things is, like, there's dudes with weapons who can jump you. And unlike in, you know, the grand beat-em-up tradition, you can't take their... Oh boy. If I remember correctly, the bosses in this game are ridiculously cheap. Get lost, punk. Todd says, in the words of the arcade, good luck, kid. Yeah. Pretty much, right? What? Okay, so I grabbed him. I was able to grab him, and then he just reversed it and grabbed me. It's just... Ugh. There we go. Mr. K. You ain't tough enough for me. I like that he was Kunio and they just changed him to Mr. K. I love that. I also love that they changed, like, the normal, like, Japanese school kids into, like, these sort of, you know, warrior, and Kunio, of course, like, he looks like Swan from the Warriors. Oops. But the Bosozuka bikers, like, they just beat it scum. They still look like Bosozuka. Alright. Well. Todd says, they are in the arcade version. I could only beat them with a running clothesline. Mr. K, or as I called him as a kid, Sensei Crease. So yeah, I think that with that I'm going to call it a night. Been about an hour and a half that we've been at this. So As always, thank you, Patreon folks, for supporting. If you're watching this as an archive and you're not a Patreon, I do this every month. Only Patreon folks come and hang out. Sometimes I'll ask them what to play. Didn't do that tonight, but that's because my selection is limited. But, do this every month, and you get early access to all the episodes. Same name, different game. Same name, different game. Guy Den, 5 Reasons, and Obscure Old Games. You'll get early access to all those as a Patreon, and everything's just $1 per video. You get all that stuff access here. Polls where I ask what I should do for next episodes, stuff like that. So check that out, patreon.com/onthestick if you are not a patron. And if you are, I'll see you again next month.